Hello, thank you for joining me today. We're going to be doing a short-ish class where we'll focus on things that can help to deal with a sense of overwhelm or sense of a lot of anxiety or a lot of stress. So these will be some nice, simple, calming practices that can hopefully help you along your way. So, all we need today is a spot on the ground to practice. You might have a yoga mat or you might just use something like a towel. That's fine, as long as the ground you're on is not too hard. And then, if possible, set up your mat near a wall. If you don't have any wall space, one thing you can always do is close and lock a door so that you have that space to work with. And the only prop that I'm going to suggest today is a blanket. Could be a blanket, it could be a beach towel, anything you got. All right, so let's head over to our mat and get started. All right, so we're going to start in a seated position. So if you're sitting on the floor, I always like to suggest sitting up on some little bit of elevation. I'm going to sit on my folded blanket today. But if you find when you're sitting on the ground that it's uncomfortable, that your spine is really rounded, then come on up and sit on a chair. That can be a great place to actually be comfortable in a seated position for the beginning of today's class. So get comfortable wherever feels best for you. And then just rest your hands wherever they feel comfortable. And take a moment to just breathe, beginning to arrive here in the room you're in your own body. And start by simply checking in with yourself. So, without trying to change anything at all, just bring your attention inwards and simply observe. Notice how you feel. Try to notice without any kind of judgment, just allowing whatever is here right now to be here. And if you are feeling some stress today, some overwhelm, can you just simply notice, where do you feel that in your body? And if you don't feel anything, that's okay. Just be curious. And if you do notice any particular part of your body that seems to be talking to you about how you're feeling, just notice, where is that? And what is it? If you could visualize it, what would it look like? Does it have a color? Does it have a shape? Is there any sense of movement, or is there a feeling of stuckness? There's no right answer. Just get familiar with what it is that's happening for you right now. And still not trying to change anything, just getting acquainted with what's here. And you might notice if there's turmoil in some parts of you, are there areas of your body that feel more calm or more neutral? Just getting a sense for where your baseline is today. And let's take some time to give our breathing some attention. So just bring your focus to your breathing. And same thing, don't need to change anything. Just notice what you notice about your breath. And make note, does it feel like your breathing is fast or slow? Does it feel smooth or not? And does it feel like your breath can flow throughout your body, or does it feel kind of stuck somewhere? Okay, and let's move on to some breath work. So today we're going to do a breathing practice called alternate nostril breathing. And for this one, what we're going to do is use our fingers to close one nostril and then the other, and just breathe out of one side. And we'll alternate which side we're breathing out of. So it'll look like this. We'll take two fingers. I've got my index finger and middle finger here resting between the eyebrows, and then use the ring finger or the thumb to close one side or the other. So get your fingers set up between your eyebrows to start with, and just take one full breath here. And then close the right nostril and breathe out of the left. Full inhale, full exhale. And then switch, close the left, breathe out of the right. And continue simply alternating side to side. Try to go at a pace that allows your breath to just move freely. No need to force anything. And if you lose track, just begin again. And when you are ready to let this one go, just bring your hands back down to rest and breathe naturally. And now for a couple of breaths, place one hand on your forehead. So the whole forehead is kind of being held by your hand. And take the other hand and just bring it around to the back of your head like this. And just breathe easy here. And again, when you're ready, let it go. Rest your hands. Take a moment here, just bring your attention inwards again. Simply notice, how do you feel? And has anything shifted for you? Even if it's just a tiny bit. Just noticing that sometimes can be really helpful when you feel like you don't have a lot of control over what's going on. You always have your breath. Okay, let's try out some movement now. And we're actually going to start with a restorative position, one where we're just going to rest for a couple of minutes. And I'm going to suggest a face down position. So either laying right down on your belly on the ground or going into child's pose if that feels comfortable for you. So I'll show you what those both look like. But it's always important, if you don't feel comfortable in this position, then take some other position that actually works for you so that you will actually be able to rest for a couple of minutes. All right. So option one is to just lay on your belly, fold your hands one on top of the other, and just use them as a pillow for your forehead. And option two, if you like child's pose, is to take that position. So for child's pose, bring your knees a little bit wider than hip width distance apart. Bring your big toes closer to each other. And then sit your hips back, reach your chest and your arms forward, and rest your forehead either on the ground, or if it doesn't easily touch the ground, then bring your hands under your forehead like this or like this. So choose the version you like best or do something completely different, totally your choice. And now get comfortable and just breathe still. And as you breathe here, I encourage you to just notice your belly. And when you bring your attention to your belly, see if you notice any kind of movement. Maybe you can feel your belly pressing down into the ground or down closer to the ground if you're in child's pose. If you're on your back, maybe you can feel a bit of rise and fall in your belly. Just see what happens when you pay attention. Okay, and when you're ready, come on up to a tabletop position on your hands and knees like this. And if you're on a harder floor, you're welcome to use a blanket or a pillow or a towel to rest underneath your knees. So take a moment to get yourself comfortable. And once you're here, let's move our spine a little bit. We're going to start by going through cat and cow. So let's arch our back just like this, coming into cow pose, and then round, coming into cat pose. And now, as you go through this, if you like, you can picture this movement starting down at your tailbone and slowly working its way all the way along your spine, allowing your head to be the last piece that moves. And keep going, tailbone initiating this movement, traveling all the way through your spine, as if you could move your spine like a wave. And when you're ready, make your way back to a neutral spine. Let's do a little bit of a side bend. So start by just looking over one shoulder and then try to pull that hip up towards your shoulder. So there's a bit of compression on one side of your waist and a bit of a stretch happening at the other side. And then go over the other way, looking over your shoulder, pulling your hip up towards your shoulder. And then just go side to side a couple of times. Let this movement feel nice and slow and smooth. And then find your center again. Come on back to neutral. You can take a moment to rest here in tabletop, or if you like child's pose, you can go back there for a breath or two. And when you're ready, let's meet back up in our tabletop position. Okay, from here, we'll try a little bit of a twisty movement. So it'll look like this. We'll start by reaching one arm up towards the ceiling and then bring it down and thread it underneath the other arm. And you can just reach that arm forward, or if it's comfortable, you can bring it down towards the ground and maybe bring your shoulder and the side of your head all the way down. So we're going to do that a few times. Choose whichever option actually feels comfortable for you. So I'm going to start with my right hand. You can pick whichever side you'd like. Start by reaching that arm up and then bring it down. Thread it under the other one. Reach it forward or lower yourself down. And let's do that again a few more times. Come all the way back up, reach your arm up, and then bring it back down. Curl in. Let's do that one more time on this side. And then pause here. If you're down with your head on the ground, if you like, you can kind of roll back into your shoulder a little bit if that feels good for you. And then come on all the way back to your tabletop. Once you're here, take a moment to just move or stretch any way you'd like. You can even go back to a resting position for a breath or two. All right, let's do that all on the other side. So bring the other arm up and then thread it through, reaching it away or coming all the way down to the ground. And let's go through this a few more times. Take your own pace. Do what actually suits your body today. And then come on back to your tabletop. All right. And now come on up either to your knees like this, or you can sit back on your heels if that's comfortable. And pause here. Take a moment again. Bring your attention inwards. How are you feeling now in this moment? How do you feel in your breathing? How do you feel in your body? No wrong answer. No need to change anything. Just see what's here now and notice, has anything shifted? And if you do feel any sense of a little bit more calm, a little bit more settled, just notice you did that by yourself. Breathing and gentle movement is stuff you can easily come back to whenever you need it. And now let's move our shoulders a little bit. So either on your knees or sitting on your heels, let's just roll our shoulders up and back a couple of times. And go the other way. And then let that go. You bring one arm out by your side like this. Bring the other hand to rest on the front of your ribs. And let's do some arm circles here. So circling your arm up and back. And as you go through this circly movement, with your other hand, just notice what's happening at your rib cage. So if you find that your ribs are shifting around as you do this, see if you can let them be still and just move your arm. It might mean your circles are a little smaller, and that is fine. Okay, and now let's let our rib cage join in. So as you bring your arm up by the side of your ear, let your ribs open up into a bit of a twist and bring your arm all the way back and around. Your circles don't have to be as big as I'm doing here. Just see what's comfortable for you. And then let it go. And just give your arm and your shoulder a really nice shake out. And then pause. Rest your hands, rest your shoulders. Take a nice, easy breath. And let's do the same thing on the other side. So one hand on your rib cage, one arm out by your side. Start by checking out how much you can actually circle at your shoulder without your rib cage participating. And then bring your ribs into this movement, allowing that nice twisty motion in your rib cage as you circle your arm up and back. All right, let it go. Shake them both out. Okay, let's come on back to our tabletop. Now we'll give our legs a little bit of attention. So stretch one leg back behind you, tuck your toes under, and then just reach your heel back. Pressing your heel back as if you could make the back line of your leg a little bit longer. And then swing your leg around to the side and place your foot all the way on the ground. And you could try to line up the edge of your mat and the edge of your foot. But try to be in a position where your knee can be straight. So if you're bending your knee to be here, then rearrange. Where can you place your foot so that your leg can be straight? Awesome. Once you've got this shape, press your foot down into the ground and try to pull up from your foot up to your hip. Just see how that feels and if it gives you a bit of stretch on the inside line of your leg. Nice. And you could stay here for a few more breaths just as you are, or you can add a bit of those spinal movements, maybe a bit of cat and cow. Maybe you want to add that twisty movement, taking the same hand as the leg that's reached up to the side, reaching it up and then threading it under. See what movements actually feel good for you. Okay, let's let it go. Place your hands back on the ground if you've had one lifted. And then we're going to bring this leg all the way around to the front. So you're coming into a low lunge shape like this. And once you've got this shape, let's bring some engagement to our legs. So just imagine pulling your front foot and your back knee towards each other. And from that nice strength in your legs, lift up. Bring your hands to your hips and keep that engagement in your legs. So keep pulling front leg and back leg towards each other. And just notice how this feels. Can you feel the strength in your legs? A strong foundation to hold you up. If you feel wobbly, you're welcome to have your hand resting on a wall or a chair. Do what actually works for you. And once you're here, let's take a different arm position. So you can keep your hands where they are, or you can take a different shape. Try to find a position in your arms that feels really nice and strong. So you might have your palms together. You might want to bring them into a bit of a cactus shape, or you might want to reach them up nice and high. It's up to you. Keeping your legs nice and strong. Breathe easy here. And then bring your hands all the way back down to the ground. Okay, from here, we're going to transition back to a plank pose. So you can either come back to a tabletop and then step both legs up, or you can bring both hands to the inside of your front foot and lift the back knee off the ground and send the front foot back to meet it. Nice. So wherever you are, you could be in a high plank like this, or you can have your knees down on the ground like this. Doesn't matter. Take a breath. And then come all the way down, belly down to the ground again. Nice. Take a moment here again. Let your head rest. Breathe easy. And now just wiggle your hips from side to side a little bit. See if you can feel your hip bones on the ground as you rock side to side. And then come on back to feeling centered, with your pelvis kind of neutral, resting on the ground. And our pelvis is going to be the foundation for this next pose. So keep that sense of connection to the ground. And then add the action of trying to reach your tailbone down towards your heels, as if you had a nice long tail and you could reach back and touch your heels. And then bring your hands to the ground by your sides like this. Keeping your pelvis connected to the ground. Try to reach the crown of your head forward at the same time. And now roll your shoulders up and back and lift your head and your chest just a little bit off the ground. See if you can keep your head in line with your spine so you're not cranking your head back like this. And take a breath. Can you keep your tailbone reaching back towards your heels at the same time? And then let it go. Bring your head and your chest back down. Rock your hips from side to side. Okay, let's come on back up to our tabletop. So take your time with that transition. Grab some knee padding if you need. Get yourself comfortable here. And let's move the other leg now. So stretching the other leg back. Tuck your toes under. Reach your heel back. Breathe easy as you do. And then bring your leg around to the side. Placing your foot on the ground once again. And then try to press your foot down to the ground and pull up from your foot up to your hip. And you can stay just like this, or you can add some of those spinal movements if you'd like. See how that feels in your legs. See if it changes the stretch that you might be feeling in your legs and your hips. You can add that twisty movement again if that one feels good for you. Okay, and let's move on to our low lunge. So bring your leg up, forward, find your low lunge shape like this. And then we'll bring some engagement to our legs. Try to press your feet, your knee back down into the ground and pull them towards each other at the same time. And when you've got that strength in your legs, come on up. Same thing as the first side, strong foundation. Choose an arm position that also feels nice and strong. And breathe easy here. And then we'll let this one go. Bring your hands back down. Come on back to a tabletop position again. And now we'll take a moment to rest. You can stay in tabletop. You can come back to your child's pose. You can even come back to a seat. Just pick whatever is actually comfortable for you. And we'll stay here for a couple of breaths. And as you rest here, check in with yourself again. How are you feeling now? Just notice whatever it is that you feel. No wrong answer. Okay, let's move on. Now we're going to finish off with a couple of restorative positions. And for this one, if you've got a blanket or a towel, we're going to use it. So what I'm going to suggest is taking your blanket or your towel and just grabbing one edge and rolling it up. So we're just going to make a roll, something like this. And the nice thing about rolling up your blanket is we're going to lay down onto this blanket roll. If you find that it's too high, too much pressure, you can always unroll it a bit. So you've got a lot less or a little bit less. It's nice and adjustable. Okay. So when you've got that, what we're going to do is lay down on our belly again. And this time we're going to lay down onto the blanket roll. So before you begin, just kind of feel around on the front of your body for the low edge, the low border of your ribs. See if you can find that there. And what we're going to do is rest on the blanket so that that blanket is in that area, somewhere around the bottom border of your ribs. And we're just going to lay down on the blanket like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. Once you get onto the blanket, you can kind of shift around and see if you can feel for the bones of your ribs there. And same thing with any restorative pose. If this doesn't feel comfortable for you, then don't bother with it. You can just lay on your belly just like we were doing at the beginning of the class, or child's pose or any kind of resting pose. But if you are taking this option, then find a way that you can rest with your hands under your head, or you can even bring another blanket or pillow under your head if that feels comfortable. And all we're going to do is rest here and think about sending your breath into the part of your body that's in contact with the blanket roll. So just like we were focusing on breathing into our belly earlier in the class, this time just focus on breathing into this part of your body, lower border of your ribs. And we'll stay here, breathing like this for a minute or two. And when you are ready, slowly let this one go. Lift up your head and your chest. Slowly, slowly bring yourself up to tabletop. And you can stay on your table. You can sit back on your heels, whatever feels better for you. And now just breathe. As you inhale, notice, where does it feel like your breath is moving in your body? Does it feel like it's up in your chest? Does it feel like you can breathe down into your belly? What is actually true for you in this moment? Okay. And we're going to finish off with one more restful position. So I will give you the option to do legs up the wall pose, because I find this one to be so nice and restful. But if you don't have wall space, or if you prefer a different position, please go ahead and take that position. You can just lay on your back. You can use this blanket roll to rest under your knees if you'd like. If you want to do legs up the wall, I'll show you what that looks like. We'll bring our mat or towel or whatever you've got like this. So the short edge of your mat is right up at the wall. And then we're going to lay on our back and have our legs up the wall. So to get into this position, it can be kind of awkward. Sit on the side of your hip so that your feet and your bum are close to the wall. You don't have to be right up close to the wall, but as close as feels comfortable for you. And so your knees should be facing away from your mat, and you should have most of the mat behind you. So if you're sitting in the middle of your mat, when you go onto your back, you're probably going to roll right off your mat. So starting this way, lay down on your side and then roll onto your back so that you can bring your legs up like this. And you can be as close or as far away from the wall as you want. It really doesn't matter, as long as your heels can be up resting on the wall. And if you find this comfortable, you can stay here for a few minutes. Your arms can rest wherever they're most comfortable. Your legs can be like this. You can let your toes fall out to the side. You can even bring the soles of your feet together and let your knees fall out to the side. 100% up to you. And once you find whatever position you've chosen, take a moment now at the end of the class. Bring your attention inwards. Just notice how you feel. Notice if anything feels different from when we started the class. Check in with your breath as well. Notice how it feels too. Fast or slow, smooth or not, where you feel your breath traveling through your body. And now take a moment to give yourself complete permission to take the next few minutes to relax. So send your body the message that there is nothing that it needs to do right now. Allow your body to feel heavy and just allow the ground beneath you or whatever you're resting on to support all of the weight of your body. And I'll finish up the video, but I encourage you to stay in this resting pose for another 5 or 10 minutes.